Well, hello my fellow car modelers. Welcome to the second episode of Luka's Unbuilds. Got some great reactions for this new series, so here's another one. I was so anxious to get going on this. I don't know if you can tell, but I have not dusted this model, so let's give it a little dusting here. I don't know why it's dusty. It's been in a box for a while. This is a model that I've talked about on the internet. I've talked about it. I'm sure you guys who are long running viewers have seen me mention this before, and especially if you're into the Porsches like I am. I've also put it up on the group a few times talking about it. This is a model I stopped working on a few years ago for many different reasons, but I really want to get back on this one. This one's like top priority. This one was I was really having fun with it. I really liked the direction it was going, a vision I had, I want to say 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I've always loved 911s, but I got really passionate and interested in them probably around 14. Not 14 years old, I mean 2014. And I saw this really cool kit. This GT2 that was put out by Tamiya. It was a different model year than what you see in front of you. It was what they call the 993, which came out in the 90s. It had a little bit different shape to it, but it was pretty much the same. It was still the air-cooled era of the Porsche 911s, and it still basically used the same roof and everything. The chassis was a little different even from the 964s, who had a little bit better chassis than the earlier 911s. This one though, I went in a little different direction with this. I just had this idea of a supercar, kind of influenced by Singer. It's a company that reimagines the 911s. If you're not really too into 911s, you don't realize it, look up Singer. It is an amazing company that does amazing things with 911s, and they literally reimagine them. These are out of stratospheric height priced cars because they're completely not just restored but heavily customized, and they're beautiful. And this was a part of my idea with this. I have always loved, my favorite Porsche is the late 70s and 80s 930 turbo wide body. That to me, when I think of a Porsche, that's the Porsche. So I got the Tamiya 1988 930 kit just for the body, and I put that onto the 993 GT2 street race car chassis that particular model depicts. And so I did a little Tamiya kit bashing here, and it surprisingly worked really well. There wasn't a lot of modifications that had to be done. The biggest modification I had to do to make the chassis fit into this body was the fact that the tracking of the rear wheels on the 993 were a lot wider than the 930 wide body, even though it already had a flare. So what I've got here is these flares have been heavily reworked, and I'll show you some pictures of what I did with them. But there's a lot of reworking right here to get these wider. It's a lot wider than stock. I did some filling of the fuel door right there, and then I drilled out this where there's going to be a fuel filler right there. I kind of took that from Singer and the race cars, of course. And then these are actually 97 Corvette rear view mirrors. I didn't like the mirrors that were on the 930. They were just kind of like, rectangular ears sticking out, and they kind of looked blah. So I wanted to change that up. Also, there's a marker light that's here that I got rid of. Other than that, it's pretty much out of the box body. Nothing else was modified. And you can see there's a tricked out chassis in there, and we're going to show that. I'm going to take the body off and let you see this chassis. But I just really love this Tamiya 911 GT2 kit. It's just got the greatest wheels and tires on it, and we'll get a closer look at those, but you can see those tires and the wheels, beautiful treaded tires. They also have a race car version that has slick tires with it, but everything else is the same. But what attracted me to this kit originally was that it was a street car that was a race car, and I always loved that concept. This is a static model or curbside. I really don't like to call it curbside. To me, curbside is something that doesn't even have an interior. But there is no popping of the back hatch there and looking at an engine. There's no engine in this, and that's perfectly fine with me. I know that is a huge thing in our modeling community, that people kind of poo-poo a lot of the Tamiya kits because of their price and there's no engine. But I can tell you the money goes in other areas that makes it worth it, because the detail on the interior and the detail on the chassis and the wheels and the tires far exceeds any US based kit. It's apples and oranges, my friends. I really, if you like, I know there's guys that are interested in that new Mustang GT4 that came out from Tamiya, and they're going, well, I'm not going to do it because there's no, it's $50 and there's no engine. I tell you, you don't know what you're missing out on. I highly recommend it. It is a complete different modeling experience, model building experience than any of the USA based kits. Not knocking them, they are what they are, and they're all awesome. I am a Tamiya lover. They are my favorite kits. If Tamiya ever got into the market of doing United States vintage muscle cars, that is when round two's got to look out, because I'll tell you, those kits would be amazing. And quite frankly, the Tamiya kits have not gone up as much over the years as the US based kits, so they're not as much more expensive than what we've got today. So it's not as huge of an investment, especially when you're doing what I did here and did a 2-kit bash, which at the time when I did this, Tamiya was really expensive. So this was an expensive kit bash, but I wanted to do this. I don't care. I want to enjoy my hobby. I don't let the dollar stop it. I got to be conservative. I'm not a rich guy, by no means, but I just have too much fun in the hobby to let sometimes money deny me having a good time with what I don't do anything else. I do this. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But back to this thing. I just had this vision. I had this made-up company in my head that would do these reimagined 911s, the same as Singer would, and this is like my version. This is what I would do if I could do that. And my plan so far, as you can see, it's pretty much prepped and ready for paint. It's in primer. Bodywork's all done. There's a few areas I see that I need to work on, but the bodywork's done. You can get a really good look at those flares right there. And the chassis is pretty much all done. I got a couple more details in the interior that I'll show you I got to finish up. And really, this thing just needs to be painted and final assembly. And I was going to go with a really bright red. I had a red set aside that I basically got PPG Global Toner Red, which is like the brightest red you could ever imagine. That's what I wanted to paint this car. Either that, or I wanted to go with more of a orangish red. I kind of had, when I worked at a paint store, concocted a pretty neat color. Unfortunately, all my paints have dried up because it's been quite a few years, so I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. It's a toss-up between red or this vermilion red that I invented, or possibly going with the times, and I really like what they've been painting a lot of Euro cars with, especially Porsches, is this beige or a gray that's really glossy. And I think those look fantastic. So that's a thought. And then I was going to put, these racing stickers all over it too, because I have to. It calls out for that to me. And the real trick, in which I'm really looking forward to, which I will make a video of, is all this little detail here and these little accordion things on the bumpers. They're all supposed to be a semi-gloss, almost flat black here and around there, and this part of the wing. And that is always a trick to do. And when you try to hand paint them, it doesn't look good. I'm going to try to mask those off and actually airbrush it. And it's a little technique that Frank taught me a long time ago to do pinstripes, that if you take your time and do it well, it turns out really clean, because you see this one piece behind the bumper. This stays body color. This right here has to be black. And yeah, if it works out right for me, it's going to look spectacular. Yes, I said that, spectacular. So let's go ahead and show you other aspects of this model, and we'll start with the chassis. So here we go with the underside of it. Just going with some Tamiya white. I was having some problems. I don't know if you can see this, but there's been a little bit of an issue with trying to use Tamiya white over gray primer out of the can. It still just wants to separate from the edges, and you can see slightly the white, or I'm sorry, the gray showing through. I don't know if you can really see that. That was really troublesome on this, but I just, you know, I could only put so many coats on there, and it just wouldn't happen, which I'm surprised with that paint, being that it's kind of a synthetic lacquer base. Usually enamels do that pull away, but that I've heard even Andy at Andy's Hobby Headquarters has said to me that he's had that issue too, and a couple other builders. The way to fix that is use their primer white. If you prime it with white, you won't have that issue. It'll work out really well, but you know, it is what it is, and I went there and it's done, so I'm keeping it the way it is. But this is basically unchanged 993 chassis from the GT2 kit, and the only modifications I had to do the chassis is up in here, if you can see. I just had to do a little grinding just so it fits along the rear bumper of the 930 body. I haven't finished the exhaust. I have two different exhausts. I was using kind of a slightly modified rear portion of the exhaust coming from the turbos that was from the kit. I just had to cut them and turn them a little bit, and it worked coming out of this outlet with this body. But then I was going to do some aluminum tubing, and I did that too, and I had this neat little idea I saw on another car. Some guys gave me riff about them. They said, oh, the exhaust tips would never be that small or something like that, and I was like, I think I got bummed at myself and got rid of them. That kind of sucks. Not sure yet what direction I'm going to go with them, and I just basically did a lot of my little hand painting tricks that I showed you with metallizers, all on these suspension pieces and engine, and I did a little bit of, you know, exhaust burn trickery there, a little bluing, just for a good look underneath. That is pretty much it. The chassis is done. I've got some pieces of aluminum I made that are going to go in here and fill this duct area, because this is all going to be brake duct work going in from in here. I opened up, and I'll show you here in a moment. You can see right there, I opened this all up. This was the blinkers, and I'm going to turn them into, that's basically the duct work for the front brakes. You can see these beautifully treaded tires, and let's tip this back over this way. These wheels, the wheels are chrome in the kit, and I just stripped them. They're not painted. That's the black plastic. I liked how it looked, and it works for me, and I'm going that way. I cheat a lot. Sometimes I feel if you don't have to paint it, don't paint it. Sometimes you still get the look. You can see what I did with the blinkers. I got to clean them up still, but I opened up the hole back there, and I just made the blinker cavity look more like a duck. So that will be my cool little duct work there. Here I opened this area up. This was all molded in a grill on the the original body. I'm going to put like a intercooler right there. So that'll be the intercooler for the turbos. And here, just to show you that this is a posable steering. I kind of kept that. It's not really that great. I'm not a big fan of posable steering, but it's, to me, not so realistic, because the whole rack moves. If that stayed stationary and that went in and out, that would take some work to do, but it could be done. But it's nice as far as the car sitting there, you can turn your wheels, but it's not so much of a big deal for me. So here's a closer look at the engine area, the rear of the car, the whole rear subframe, and just hand painted with a metallizer's pretty much it for the underside. Another really good look at the wheel, and if you can see in there, you see there's the brake rotor and a yellow Brembo brake caliper. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, you get it. There's basically the whole chassis with the body off. Beautiful roll cage. This kit just has an awesome roll cage. I've test fitted this cage into other bodies, a lot of Porsche bodies. It fits every Porsche body I've tried it out in, so I'm always in the search for getting that GT2 kit. I have a few of them and I want some more, just for the parts, just to use in other builds, other Porsche builds. So we've got here, you get a good look at the interior. The seats are from the kit. This kit came with 2 seats. Everything in here is pretty much from the kit, except for all the plumbing and wiring that we did. You can see some of that wiring that I did on the back control boxes, the computer box, and we've got some plumbing. This all here, you know, where it all terminates, this is all going to be hidden. So this is coming from under the dash, and you can see right there. We've got, poke under here, you see all that right there. That is basically all going to routed along here to go back here. I've got it plumbed. I've teed it off and haven't finished it, but it's going to go over to these solenoids here, or rams, they really are. These are the pneumatic rams for the jacking systems that were in these cars. So I'm going to basically finish plumbing them to that. This, I believe, was supposed to be located in the front area for the race car. It's just a computer control box. I made a little aluminum plate there. If you can see, get a good look. There's a little aluminum plate right there. Get under here so you can see that. Little rivets on there so it would sit up in there perfect instead of being kind of tilted back the way the floor was. And let's see if we can get around there so you get a good look at all my little detail wiring. I just took the small little wiring you get from Detail Masters. They have detail wiring. I love that stuff. I get multiple colors and I can make little looms and stuff like that. I think it gives a great look. You can see there the fire extinguisher. Here's something pretty cool to take a look at. Can you see here where the pedals are and the floor? You see that silver right there? That's to look like Dynamat or something like that. Basically heat insulation. I used the foil out of Marlboro cigarettes. That, I got to give that credit to Clay Kemp. He did that years ago on a model race car, and I thought it looked so cool, and I was a smoker. I just kept that, and when I'd find different colors, I'd keep that stuff. So if you know a smoker, if you're not a smoker, ask them for their cigarette boxes when they're done, because especially if they smoke Marlboros, it's kind of like the best looking foil paper inside there, and you want to stock that stuff up. Something I want to show you is pretty cool, and I'm going to do a video on how to do this. The roll bar padding. This roll bar padding is I can even give you a little quick tutorial with some photos. I'll just do a slideshow, but basically how that's all done is that's heat shrink. I would take a piece of aluminum tubing that's about the same diameter as whatever roll cage I'm wanting to cover. I'd slide heat shrink over it. I'd heat it up with either a lighter or heat gun, whatever you have that would heat up heat shrink, and let it shrink up to the tubing. If I needed to bend it a little to have like bends, like I would bend the tubing a little bit so the heat shrink would kind of bend. Before I would take the heat shrink off of the tubing, and before the heat shrink cools down, I would take the back of a X-Acto blade and just kind of roll it and run over, and it would make these indentions here of where the straps would be. Doing the heating up, that would make it a little more puffier looking. It would fit the roll cage perfect. And then to take it off, just put a slice in it, pull it off the tubing, then it would just clip right onto the roll bar. And then I would take some more of that Detail Masters detail wire, whatever color you want, to simulate zip ties, and I would just put the zip tie around and twist it up and flip it over and kind of cut it, and it would look like a zip tie. That's how I would get that look. What do you think? And we'll just let you have another little gander at that whole chassis right there. If you're wondering about the door panels, I got to do some cleaning up, but I just basically painted the door panels that came in the 993 GT2. I kind of masked off. I think I painted it black because some of the white got through here. You can see I got to clean that up. I just did flat black panels and the rest is supposed to be white. That's the driver's side. I got the passenger side, since and you see that just fits right into there. That's the look that we'll have. Dashboard and everything, that's right out of the 933 GT2 kit. So let's take a look at the dashboard if we can. Get a good angle there. You can see right there I just kind of hand painted all the gauges, and then I dropped a little bit of clear in there just so it looks like there's a lens over them, and did whatever needed to do with switches with silver or a little red right there because that's the startup switch, and a little Momo steering wheel right there that came in the 993 kit. You see that shifter right there? That's just a piece of wire. I used the shifter out of the kit and just added wire right here to make more like just a rod, make it look a little more race car-y. So there you go, one of my unfinished builds. I think I'm going to get back onto this one. This one I really want to get finished. It's one that's always on my mind. I really was having fun with it, but it had to be put away at the time when I was working on it for various reasons with life at the time and whatnot. But never got back on it, and I really want to. It's an enjoyable model to build. It's crazy how much it really worked fitting together, being a kit bash. Really did not take a lot of effort to make this body work with that chassis. So it's technically a 993 Porsche with a 930 wide body on it. Kind of a hybrid Porsche. It's something that I believe could really be done. It'd be neat to see somebody do something like this in real life. If I had unlimited funds, I would so do something like this. I would love to have a Porsche 911. It's one of my top dream cars, and to me this would be the ultimate. They're just so outlandishly expensive these days. Thanks to YouTube. Just they got shown on YouTube so much, the prices just went through the roof over the past 15 years, even just 10 years. I really highly recommend checking out a few cool videos on YouTube about 911s if you haven't and you have an interest in them. One is Matt Farah did a YouTube show for a while with a channel called /Drive. Now it is called The Drive. If you go find The Drive and look up a show called Tuned, that was Matt Farah's, and he did a really cool video on Joey Seeley's 911 that he made kind of a streetable race car out of. That car was a big inspiration in doing this build. Among any video you can find with the company Singer or Porsche 911s reimagined by Singer, check those out. Those cars are probably the most phenomenal built vehicles ever. They're astonishing, whether you're into Porsche 911s or not. Singer, all the videos you can find. Jay Leno even did a video on Singer, and with Rob Dickerson, who is the man who created Singer. And his story is really neat. So this was kind of my idea of if I was loaded with all kinds of cash and I wanted to do my own reimagining of a 911, this is mine. I do it in little scale because I can't do it in big scale. And isn't that why we do this little scale stuff? It's all dreams, and that's what's fun. Keeps us going. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Remember to go on to my Teespring store, get all the t-shirts, mugs, t-shirts, whatnots. I'm going to come out with some new stuff. Keep on checking on there for the new stuff that comes out. Kudos to my producers, my Patreons. You guys are my producers. You're throwing money at this channel, helping me keep producing great videos like this. I want to thank you all. If you'd like to become a producer of this show, please go over to my Patreon. Link is in the description below, and join up. Thanks a bunch. I hope you enjoyed this. Please put in the comments below what you thought of this build. We've got plenty more. Believe me, I got a lot more in these boxes. of unbuilds and builds. We'll be doing more of these videos like that. I want to thank you guys. You guys are my inspiration. Like I always say on these shows, go build model cars. Why? Because they're fun!